Hello everyone and welcome to the last part of our iPhone photo editing video tutorial. In this video I'm going to show you how to take a photo like this and turn it into something like this. And in order to do this we're going to need to use another app, and this app is called ColorSplash. And this app unfortunately isn't free. If I'm not mistaken, it's $2 on the App Store, but for the kind of images you can create it's totally worth paying these $2. But before we go to ColorSplash, we're going to go ahead and launch Snapseed and start it from there. So the first thing we want to do is we want to open the original photo, just like we've done it many times before. So we'll go ahead, select this, use this image, and we'll open it. And just as we always do it, the first thing we'll do here is the cropping. We'll make it one by one because I intend to post this on Instagram. In fact, I already did. We'll change the size a bit. And now we have to choose the perfect composition. And I think for this photo, the rule of the thirds will work perfectly as well. And what I want to do here is I want to make sure that the flower really is the #1 subject here, because it's obviously the flower that matters here, not that green grass around it. But at the same time, I want to make sure that there's some context surrounding this flower, because this is really actually a special photo. It was the first flower I saw this spring, and there was this one single flower in the grass, and there was nothing else like that anywhere around. So for this reason, I want to also show this in the photo, that this flower wasn't just there in a beautiful garden. It was a single flower literally growing out of nowhere, and I want to keep that idea in the photo. So that's why I need to keep some surroundings in as well. And I think a composition like this will probably do the trick for me. Again, nothing extraordinary, simple rule of thirds, but it will work well here, trust me. So we'll save it, and next we'll go to Tune Image. In Tune Image, I want to do a few things. What I really want is I want to make the flower look more bright, more spectacular, and I want it to stand out more once we make all of this image black and white except the flower itself. So I want really to make the colors of the flower more strong, more bright, and yeah, more powerful. And I'm going to start with increasing ambience because it's probably a good way to start. We'll increase saturation, of course, because, you know, if I want more color, I need saturation, of course. We'll also increase contrast just a bit, but not too much, because if we go too much, you see the colors just disappear. And we need to keep the colors, of course. So I'll just increase contrast to 5 here. We'll decrease brightness, and that really has a big effect on colors, as you can see. And another thing I like about decreasing brightness is that in general, when we make this photo black and white, except for the rose petal, for the flower petals, of course, it's going to stand out, the flower is going to stand out even more if the surroundings are dark. So that's another cool thing to keep in mind. Okay, finally we can look at white balance, but I think I'm just going to leave this at something like this, because I want, you know, this is blue, so I don't want to go too high. But if I go too low, it just doesn't look right. So something around 3 will be perfect here. Once again, brightness, let's just go a tiny bit less, something like 35. Ambience, that's good. Probably 35 is good as well. Contrast is good. Saturation is perhaps even too good. Let's move it to 25. And brightness, for brightness, I think this should be good enough. Now, if we don't get this perfect the first time around, we can always come back to Snapseed again, so it's not that big of a problem. But what you can really see here is that in comparison to the image we started with, here the flower really stands out more. So that's what we were aiming for, and that's what we got. So now, once we have this, we're gonna go ahead, say what we have to photo library, and we can also try to do something cool that Snapseed now allows us to do, which is, and just wait a second until this is done, which is opening the same image in another app. You can do this with email, Twitter, Facebook, Google+, or you can open the image in a completely different app, such as an Instagram or ColorSplash in this case. So that's what we're going to do. We'll open the image in ColorSplash. Okay, we'll see if we can change the orientation. And there we go. And now, what we have to do is, well, first we have to zoom in. And once that is done, we have to carefully select and highlight all the colorful parts while not making anything else highlighted. And this is a bit of a tricky job. It does take a few minutes, so bear with me. And it's important to do this quite well, because if you're not accurate with this, just the end result isn't going to look all that great. And in order to be accurate, you really want to zoom in and out often. And for zoom, you just use 2 fingers here, as I'm doing right now. Oops. So yeah, it does take a bit of time, but just do it, and it will be worth it. The results will be fantastic. By the way, if you have an iPad, this app, ColorSplash, is also available there. I think it's a universal app, so you only get to buy it once. And you can do the same thing, but on the bigger screen. Obviously, it's going to take you so much less time. It's so much easier. And quite often, that's what I do. But you can also do it on the iPhone. That's fine too. So don't worry if you don't have an iPad. You don't need to have it. You just need a tiny bit of patience and a picture to do this on, of course. Now you can see if I make a mistake, if I go over as I did now, I can just come back, select gray on the left-hand side, and just correct the mistakes. So if you make a mistake once, it's no big deal. And also, if you go a tiny bit over, it's usually not that well seen, because ColorSplash is kind of a smart app. It knows that you didn't intend to highlight the green grass on the background when you're working on a beautiful blue flower, and so it's not going to highlight the grass for you, even if you go a tiny bit over. Well, it kind of did it here, but the point is, it's not as obvious as you might expect it to be. Something like that. Let's see, let's zoom this in here, and just bear with me for a couple of more minutes. I know it's time consuming, but trust me, the end results will be worth it. By the way, this works very well with things like umbrellas. Some of my favorite photos are just umbrellas of kids that are in colors, and then you get this huge contrast between colorful umbrellas and a rainy, gloomy day. So those are some cool ideas you can try out. Flowers work well too. Cars can sometimes be highlighted, or anything else. And the trick usually is that you want to do this with bright colors. If the colors aren't bright, if they're dull, it's not going to look so cool. But if they're bright like here, then you really get the best effect. Okay, just a tiny bit more left. You see, it looks like it would take forever, but it's not taking forever. We're almost there. And to do this precisely, you really have to work with zoom. And to change the zoom, you just move around using 2 fingers. That's how you also move the picture around. Takes a bit getting used to, but once you're there, it will become really simple. Okay, have this, tiny bit more here. Another thing is, even if you go a tiny bit over, like I've done here, the chances are it won't be as noticeable once you zoom out, because here we're zoomed in a lot. So let's see what happens when we zoom out. Just 1 second, I'll finish this. You see, when you zoom out, all those mistakes aren't as visible as they used to be. And this is pretty much as close to perfect as we'll get it. So I'm going to go ahead and say what we have. Save image. Alright, perfect. You can also do something else. I can select Save Share, and I can copy to clipboard. And now, once I open Snapseed again, I can use the open button here and just do paste image. And here is the image we need. I hope I can finish this before the battery runs out. So what I still want to do is want to tune the image again. We did this before, but we can do it again. That's the beauty of Snapseed. You can always come back and do things again. So let's see if there's anything more we could do. Probably we can decrease brightness even a tiny bit more, as I'm doing it now. Contrast, now is a good time to increase it, I think. Of course not too much, because then we lose the colors in the flower, but something like 10 might work well. White balance, this is a tricky one, but I think something like 5 is reasonably safe here. Saturation is good the way it is. Contrast is good. And brightness, we'll leave it at -10. Okay, we'll save the changes. And we're almost done. You could save the image at this point and it would be perfect. But there's one more thing we can do, and that's adding center focus. And this is really going to make a difference in this image. So the first thing I want to do is want to take this blue dot and move it to the center of the flower. Then I want to use 2 fingers and pinch it so that we're only working with the flower, because obviously it's just the flower that matters here in the image. Everything else is just background essentially. And for this, it's actually a good idea to leave a bit of blur inside. Not too much, something like 20. And what this thing does is it blurs out everything around. Well, I'm not going to use 100, of course. I'm going to use something like 20, 25. Just so that the flower is even more pronounced in comparison to the clutter in the background. We can also change inner brightness, and here we had +30. But I don't want +30, I think 0 will be better, because if we make the flower darker, the colors stand out more, they become more vivid. And finally, let's look at outer brightness. And by going down to something like -60, or perhaps -50 to keep it a bit milder, we can really eliminate all the clutter from the background and make sure that it's just the flower that stands out here. And you can see we started with this. Now we have that. I think this could be even a bit too extreme. Probably something like -5 would be a nicer version. Let's just adjust the size of the flower for of the circle for one last time. We'll put it here, nicely in the middle, and I think we're done. So let's go ahead, save the changes, and this is the perfect image created using Snapseed, ColorSplash, and Snapseed once again. The cool thing about this process is that we can use more than one app, and by doing this you can really unleash your creativity. We started in Snapseed, we saved changes, we went to ColorSplash, we did our things there, and then we came again back to Snapseed. Now if we were only using ColorSplash, we couldn't make this nearly as good as it is now. It would look cool, but it would be kind of, you know, the flower wouldn't be as bright and the background wouldn't really be as dark and the whole composition just wouldn't stand out as much. But by using app stacking, we can really make a big difference and really make our creativity do wonders as we couldn't do otherwise. Okay, thank you very much for watching. This was the last video in our iPhone photo editing video tutorial. And please tell me what you think. Please leave a comment. Please send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to see your own photos. And I'll keep in touch with you.